StrayAllDay.com.
The assumptions that strangers make about you. We are on part 2 of our 2-part mini-series. If you missed part 1, make sure you go back and check that one because we are picking up right where we left off on point number 4. Point number 4 is speech patterns reveal your frame. As we talked about in the previous series on men sizing each other up, your tone of speech, pace, clarity of what you say, all of these allow people to assume whether you are confident or insecure, whether you know what you're talking about or you're just trying to figure things out. Every word you speak either strengthens or weakens the impression that others have of you, especially when they don't know you yet, especially when they're trying to figure you out. They're deciding this is a person to follow or a person to ignore, a person I need to know or a person who it doesn't matter if they come or go. This is yet another reason why I continually stress the importance, the paramount importance of communication skills for all of you. Written communication skills, spoken communication skills in 2 branches, spoken to an individual and speaking to groups. You must master your communication. You must get good at communication. And I should add in a 4th element of communication, which is your nonverbal communication. That's your body language, your presence, your energy. How you talk to groups, how you talk to individual people, what you say, and can you communicate in the written format. The email, anywhere from a text message to writing a book and email, you have to be able to communicate. And this applies to male and female, regardless of your industry or your area of interest. Even as an athlete, if you're a really, really good athlete and you're great at playing soccer or baseball or basketball, if you're going to become a well-known brand and you want to get a bunch of endorsement deals or brand sponsorships, what do you got to do? Well, you got to get on the microphone and talk. On some level, you have to talk in a way that makes brands and fans be interested in you as a person, on top of the fact that they're interested in you as an athlete. You can't just be a great athlete who can't talk because you can't sell anything. All right, Michael Jordan was a great athlete. He was great at playing, but Michael Jordan was good at talking. He was good at being this polished presenter, which is why he was able to sell so many things that he was able to sell. There are a lot of great athletes who couldn't sell anything simply because they couldn't talk. Their communication skills weren't there. They weren't able to build a connection with an audience, therefore they couldn't sell. You have no connection with an audience, you can't sell anything. Magic Johnson, great salesperson. Why? Because he could build a connection with an audience. Now take another player of his era named Larry Bird, who was an amazing player, one of the best players of all time. Larry Bird was not much of a communicator. I'm not saying he was bad, but he wasn't much of a communicator. He clearly had no interest in the stuff that Magic and Michael engaged in off the court. And Larry Bird, therefore, never engaged in that stuff off the court. He never became a name brand outside of playing basketball. He's a name in basketball circles, but outside of basketball, most people are not familiar with Larry Bird because he never made himself the pitch man off the court based on his communication skills. Again, it doesn't mean he was bad at it. It just means he clearly, for whatever reason, wasn't interested. You want to be that person in anything that you do, especially those of you who work in knowledge work, those of you who do office work, those of you who do work where you are, a lot of your work is literal communication. You're literally talking to people. It's not putting a ball in a basket or throwing a baseball or catching a football. You better be good at communication because how are you actually going to move up in your career? You can move up your career playing baseball by just hitting a baseball every time or striking people out. In knowledge work, which is what most of us do these days, you need to be able to communicate just to keep your job. Well, first of all, to get a job, let alone keep a job, let alone move up in the job. Your communication skills are everything. Those of you who are sports coaches, of course, to get your team to compete, well, you got to be a good communicator to motivate, inspire, move them to actually do what they need to do on the court, field, track, etc., to play well so that the team wins and you look good and you get raises, promotions, etc. Also, to even get players on your team in the first place. If you're even at the pro level and the collegiate level, even more importantly at the collegiate level, you got to be really good at recruiting. What is recruiting in college sports? Is your ability to sell. Selling your program and selling your opportunity to the players who you want to be on the roster. You got to sell them on, hey, here's why you should come play here, as opposed to these other 3 schools that are trying to get you to come play here. Even at the pro level, you got to do this. All right, here there are 4 teams trying to sign you. We want you to come sign with us. Here's the reason why you got to do it. What is that? That's communication skill. When you're a coach, you are basically part of management in any organization. And when you're a part of management, you got to sell yourself to the bosses for you to get the job in the first place. And then even when you have the job, you probably had to meet with management on a regular basis to resell them on you keeping your job. Even if you're doing a good job, you got to resell them. And if your team's not doing too well, you better be good at reselling them. Otherwise, you're going to lose your job. So those of you who are football fans, or you know anything about football, there's a documentary on Netflix about the Dallas Cowboys. I believe I forget the name of the documentary. Let me see if I can find the name of the documentary. I think it's called America's Team, but I might be wrong about that. Let me see. Netflix. Where is it? I think it is. No, it's not that. Yeah, America's Team. America's Team. The Gambler and His Cowboys. It's all about basically about the 1990s Dallas Cowboys. This is Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin, Jimmy Johnson, that crew. And I'm not a super big football fan, but I do follow football well enough that I remember that era very well. And I remember following football very much at that time. And I'm bringing that up because the coach of that Dallas Cowboys team, his name is Jimmy Johnson. He came on early on in Jerry Jones' tenure. Jerry Jones is the still owner of the Dallas Cowboys. And he coached up the Dallas Cowboys, along with having some good talent, to become Super Bowl champions back-to-back years. They won the Super Bowl 2 years in a row. Then after winning those 2 straight Super Bowls, Jimmy Johnson got fired. Now, how do you get fired after winning the Super Bowl 2 years in a row? By any measure, I guess you would call him the best coach in football. He just got fired after winning the Super Bowl twice. The Super Bowl, by the way, is the championship in football. He got fired because he got crossways with the boss. The point is, you can get fired even at the top of your game if you get crossways with the ownership, with the people who make the hiring and firing decisions. So even if you're good at coaching, you still got to be good at communicating. And as a coach, you got to deal with a lot of things. You got the players you got to deal with. You got the media that you may have to deal with. You have the people above you that you had to deal with. And you still got to go out there and actually win the games. So there's a lot of different things you got to deal with when you're there. You got all these tentacles dealing with above you and below you. The whole point is, folks, any kind of work that you do, you better be good at communicating. All right, just doing the job well is not enough. And for many of you, the job is communicating. Communicating is literally the job. That's what you got to do. So in the case of only difference with all these things, what I'm talking about here, your communication skills, is that communication is not just what you say. It's also how you say things. So we've been talking about that a whole lot. And how you communicate tells people a lot about who you are and how they should deal with you. They make assumptions. And again, they fit you into boxes based on what they've seen in their own lives. Point number 5, today's topic, once again, is we're on part 2 of our series, assumptions that strangers make about you. Number 5, silence is an assumption tool in and of itself. When you say nothing, it's a tool for assumptions. People still make judgments about you when you're not talking. Why? Because human beings don't like to have vacuums. They don't like to have things in their lives that they cannot categorize and put into a box. So they're like, what do I do with this? All right. And then they go make assumptions. So even if you don't talk at all, people still make judgments. The only difference is when you're silent, people assume mystery, confidence, weakness, or whatever else they could possibly come up with, all based on what? How do you make these assumptions? Based on how you carry yourself. And that takes up about 90% of this. And the final 10% is composed of many preconceived notions that person has based on their own prior life experience. So again, if you're black and you're dealing with a white person who maybe doesn't have a lot of experience with black people, their prior life experience with black people, you're probably going to get affected. Their assumption about you will be affected by that prior experience, regardless of who you are. But only about 10% of their judgment is going to be based on that. The other 90% is going to be based on who you are and how you carry yourself, even if you're not saying a word. So the less you say, the more you cause other people to think about and consider you, as a general rule. As a general rule, people will think about and consider you more when you're not talking because you're not giving them anything to categorize you with, so they have to make it up on their own. In other words, they have to think about it more because if you talk, you tell them exactly how to look at you. If you don't talk, now they still have to figure it out. They still want to figure it out because the human brain requires them to figure it out. They don't like that empty space. They don't like that gap. They want to fill in that gap somehow, some way. So if you don't tell them how to fill in the gap by talking, they'll fill in the gap with their own thoughts, and they base their thoughts around everything they can pick up from you aside from words because you're not giving them any words because you're not talking. That's the way it works. So the less you say, the more you get other people to think about and consider you, even if what they assume is not true. So people can make assumptions about you that are completely false. But if you don't say anything, then they're going to have those assumptions. You know, I'm pretty sure there's people walking around Miami assuming that I'm a lawyer because they never heard me talk. And I never walked up to them and said, hey, just so you know, hey, I know you don't know me, but just to let you know I'm not a lawyer. I'm not walking around telling people that. So they make the assumption. And if they don't talk to me, they'll just live with that assumption. And that's completely fine by me. All right. The fact is, they had to think about it and decide on their own as opposed to you telling them. Again, when you talk, you tell them how to categorize you. When you don't talk, they got to figure it out. All this concludes to the understanding that there's power in silence. Now, why does this make you powerful? It makes you powerful because you force other people to think about you. When you make other people think about you, even when you're not around, that's power. Why? Because you're occupying space in their minds. And remember, human beings can only think about one thing at a time. People think they can think about more than one thing at a time, but you can only think about one thing at a time. So there's power in not talking too much, when that silence is combined with strong presence. So if you're not saying anything, but your presence is weak and your body language is weak, then you get completely ignored, dismissed. It's almost as if they never met you. It's almost as if you never existed. When your presence is weak and your body language is strong and you're silent, that creates power. So the presence has to be there. Weak presence with silence makes you look more weak, or just usually just gets you completely mentally dismissed and forgotten by other people. So be careful with this one. Point number 6. Today's topic, once again, is part 2 of our mini-series, The Assumptions that Strangers Make About You. Number 6, control the first impression. You've heard the saying that you never get a second chance to make your first impression, right? All of you have heard that before. This is true. First impressions are lasting and frame controlling when it comes to how you meet other people. I can think to this day of people whom I've known for over 10 years, and I remember how I first met them. And I can tell by the way that they engage with me that the first impression is the strongest impression that they got of me, and that they still deal with me based on that original first impression, regardless of whatever else they found out, learned, or experienced after that first impression. That first impression sets things in stone. And again, any of you think about this. Think about people who you met, how you first met them, and then how you see them to this very day. That first impression still sticks out in your mind unconsciously about that person, regardless of anything that's happened or anything that's been said since you first met them. So knowing that assumptions will be made about you, do not fight the reality that people are drawing conclusions about you based on small pieces of information and quick, instantaneous impressions and stereotypes and just little things that they're picking up energetically from you. People are making these assumptions whether you want them to or not. So again, do not fight the reality of human nature that people make these assumptions all the time. Instead, control this frame. How do you control the frame? Work on your presence. Work on your nonverbal body language. Work on your communication. Work on your nonverbal communication, including your body language, including your breathing, including your eye contact, including your posture, including the way that you move, including the way that you dress, including the way that you present yourself, including your grooming, including your physicality, meaning how your body is shaped. Being in good shape doesn't matter. Yes, people are picking up on all this stuff. All of these things are how people are making conclusions about you, and they're doing it very, very quickly. And any future communication is going to be based on that frame, that assumption. So everything that we've been talking about here, presence, composure, intentionality behind energy, they turn all the assumptions that other people will make either in your favor or they turn them against you, depending on how you use them. You ignore these at your own peril, because if you have weak presence, people are going to assume that you're weak. Even if it's not true, for the rest of your engagement with that person, whether it lasts a minute or a year or 10 years, is going to be based on you fighting against that assumption that they already made about you based on that first impression that they got of you. Okay, that's going to happen whether you want it to or not. So work on these things that we've been talking about a lot over these last few weeks. Getting your presence up, your energy up, getting your posture right, making sure that you're in control of the way you're presenting yourself and how other people are seeing you and why they're seeing you that way. The more you control these things, again, the more you'll get people to make assumptions about you that actually help you and bolster you. They may even make assumptions about you that make you bigger and better than you actually are, even better. And again, your nonverbal communication sets all this in motion. So what are you communicating? Because you're always communicating something. Just make sure it's the thing that you want said. Make sure it's a story that you want to be told. Again, do not avoid assumptions. Now, that's impossible. Human beings all make assumptions, even you. You just want to make sure the assumptions that get made about you are actually helping you, not hurting you. All that said, let's recap today's class. This is part 2 of our series on the assumptions that strangers make about you. Number 4, speech patterns reveal your frame. All right. Your tone of speech, pace, clarity of what you say allow people to assume that you are confident and secure, whether you know what you're talking about or if you don't. Number 5, silence is an assumption tool. If you don't talk at all, people still make people make adjustments about you, and they judge you based on everything else they can pick up, even without words as one of their cues. Number 6, control the first impression. All of you know the saying, you never get a second chance to make your first impression. So make that first impression the right one based on your presence, your energy, your calmness, your breathing, your body language, the way you present yourself, your grooming. All of these things are part of the first impression that other people are making of you. This applies on the internet as well as it applies in real life, by the way. All that said, folks, you want to step up your communication, whether we're talking verbal or nonverbal. I have the People Skills course inside of Work on Your Game Academy. Just go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. There's a button there for the academy where you can find all of our courses. If you want to have me directly coach you on this stuff to step up your game in the professional world and the entrepreneurial world and just your overall leadership game, I love coaching people on that. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. You'll see where you can schedule a time to get on a call with us about that. All of this happens at workonyourgameuniversity.com. Link is down below in the description to this episode. Work on your game. Dre all